I've become obsessed with the blood industry, which is surprising for someone who's terrified of needles.
And then I'm going to insert to...
Every 2 seconds in the US, someone needs a blood transfusion. It's a beautiful modern miracle that we have a system that can supply all of that blood. But it's also a very invasive, unnerving thing to drain ourselves of blood to donate or sometimes sell. As always, I'm going to get very personally involved in this story, and I'm going to be selling my own plasma to show you that side of things. I'm eating a big breakfast and heading there now. But first, a few things we have to know. Your blood is made up of 45% red blood cells, less than 1% white blood cells and platelets, and 55% plasma. So when I say the blood industry, that's actually misleading. There are two basically siloed industries here, depending on which part of the blood we're talking about: nonprofit whole blood donations or for-profit plasma selling. Blood donations are of whole blood. 6.8 million Americans a year donate blood. Whole blood donations happen at nonprofit blood drives and are not paid because of FDA regulations. These are sent to hospitals to be used as emergency blood transfusions. The hospitals pay a reimbursement fee for the cost of collecting and testing the blood. Plasma collection centers take only the plasma part of your blood, and they do pay you. There's no FDA regulations on plasma payments. These are for-profit centers owned by Big Pharma. These pharmaceutical companies own their whole supply chain. They collect the plasma themselves, they export it to their labs around the world to be made into medications, and they sell it back to patients. The US is one of only 5 countries in the world that allows paid plasma collection, and we do it at a way bigger scale than anyone else. 20 million Americans a year sell their plasma, and we provide 70% of the plasma needed for the entire world. I'm gonna show you the behind the scenes of the shady for-profit plasma industry, the logistics of the nonprofit blood donation market that supplies 13.6 million units of blood to hospitals each year, and talk to a scientist who's creating an artificial blood that might change blood donation forever. So now I'm gonna finish my breakfast and get going to sell some plasma, and I'm not nervous at all.
I don't think there's any question they're being preyed upon by the industry.
It's not cash, it's a prepaid debit card.
Only about 3% of the eligible population donates. 3.
Pass out? Who's gonna pass out? I'm not gonna pass out. Large. Everybody on Reddit got in my head about like needing enough protein and being like really full because they're gonna test my blood levels for like protein and iron and a couple different things. The subreddit that I was in for plasma sellers is really dark. People are doing a lot of work to keep their bodies healthy enough to keep doing this, and a lot of the posts in there are people who are desperate for cash. Another really dark website that I found ahead of my donation today is the website for the place that I'm donating. It has this crazy, like, silly millennial vibe, which is really off-putting next to these frequently asked questions. A lot of these people are using this as a genuine stream of income. You could make $6,000 a year if you donate twice a week at the place that I'm going to. Here we go, I'm so excited. I like that this sign says donate plasma, earn cash. It's not cash, it's a prepaid debit card. So that's a little different, but I'm really excited and I'm ready to go in and I'm not stalling. My very own Oldham Life prepaid debit card with nothing on it. Well, it turns out I can't really do it. I tried to donate plasma. I got as far as the finger prick, which really hurts, by the way. I've never had that done. And then I passed out. They were about to call an ambulance and make me get in an ambulance, and I said, absolutely not, we're not doing that. It was probably at least 30 people in there giving plasma, and then there was like a line out in the front almost the whole time that I was there. It was a little dystopian to see like 30 people sitting in a room hooked up to IVs or whatever it is that's draining all their plasma out. So I'm pretty sure I'm blacklisted from the plasma place, but I have an interview with the Red Cross in 2 weeks, and I'm gonna try to do DIY blood and needle exposure therapy until then. Is it like not woke of me to say that I don't like that he has hair on his arms?
I've got my gauze.
Anyone who models for this shouldn't have hair.
Some blood, and
Mop up some blood?
I've got Brian's arm right here. I'm going to go towards the skin. I'm going to insert, and I'm watching the flash chamber.
I just found a YouTube video called Taking Blood ASMR Needle Desensitization Therapy with Dr. Roleplay Progressive Relaxation. Let's go.
Because I want you to see that we are trained with this. So find the area. In. Blood out. See, no mark. So it's completely safe. Now, I do you feel?
Great. In my research for this video, I found this amazing book on ethics and money in the plasma industry, and I reached out to the author for an interview. I'm very lucky that she said yes, especially since I won't be able to show you donating plasma from my own experience.
My name is Kathleen McLaughlin. I am a journalist. I have a rare autoimmune disease that requires me to get infusions of a drug that's made from human plasma.
Kathleen's interest in this industry began because she's personally reliant on it. I asked her why the US is one of the only countries in the world that allows for-profit plasma centers.
I love this question because there isn't a good answer for it. It just happened that way. And I think right now, because it's such a huge export product, I think it would be very difficult for anyone to step in at this point and roll that back. There are millions of people in the US who depend on the money. We have somewhere between 20 and 25 million people every year who sell their plasma at for-profit donation centers. The real issue to me, looking at all of this, is the system does exploit people, and it pays people just enough to keep them coming back as often as possible. It's become a social safety net for a lot of Americans. I don't think there's any question they're being preyed upon by the industry. If there's a lot of data, there have been studies that show plasma centers are more likely to be in poor zip codes. So that right there tells you there's economic predation going on. Think of the example of Flint, Michigan. Flint has a higher poverty rate than most places in the United States. It's not a huge city now. It's like 75,000 people. They have 6 plasma centers in Flint. So just by comparison, Missoula, Montana, which is near where I live, which is a relatively economically okay city, is the same population and has 1 plasma center. So you can see how these centers target populations that are economically deprived.
Kathleen told me there are 3 main types of plasma sellers. The first is college students, who see $50 for 90 minutes of their time as way more convenient than a part-time job, and since they're young, they don't mind the physical toll. There's also Mexican nationals, who cross the border for the day to donate at one of the many plasma centers set up just for them. And finally, there's the working poor.
So you'll find people who, let's say 30 to 40 years ago in their socioeconomic class, would have had a job that provided benefits and retirement and, a decent safety net. Now those things have been stripped away. And so you have a lot of people who are selling plasma to take a vacation, selling plasma to pay off college loans, selling plasma to do the kinds of things that wages have not kept up with. $50 to $60 is kind of the norm of what most people would get for one donation. The medication that I take every 3 weeks costs $15,000 per dose. Now, if you look into what makes up my medication, they will tell you that it is made from thousands of donors. Now, the number and the amount that they're taking from each person is very unclear. But you're looking at a process where the beginning stage is paying someone $50, and then by the time the medication gets back to me, it's $15,000 for a dose. It's very difficult to say how much of that in the middle is profit.
Corporate decisions, like those made by Big Pharma about plasma selling, end up shaping our lives, but a lot of these stories don't get the coverage they deserve. For example, the DOJ recently sued Walgreens for allegedly filing millions of illegitimate opioid prescriptions, but this might be the first time you're hearing about this. When there's no corporate accountability, people pay the price, which is why good news coverage is so important. That's why we've partnered with Ground News. It's an independent app and website that brings together sources from around the world where you can see each outlet's bias, credibility, and even who funds them. Over 100 sources covered this story, and Ground News shows over 90% are highly credible. The side-by-side of headlines is super helpful to see coverage differences. Left-leaning outlets focus on Walgreens' role in fueling the opioid crisis, while right-leaning coverage uses legal language that softens the impact. I find it super helpful to quickly see all the political leanings and funding behind the news I'm reading. If you also want to go beyond the headlines and understand why things are being reported how they are, then you're in luck. I got my viewers 40% off the same unlimited access Vantage plan that I've been using. Go to ground.news/brew, the link is in the description, or scan the QR code. It's about $5 a month to find the angles your go-to news source might be missing. One of the biggest logistical difficulties and costs for both the paid plasma and blood donation industries is something called the cold chain. That means that the collection, storage, and use of blood and plasma is limited to situations where that refrigeration is possible. Ambulances can't carry blood because of the cold chain. They also can't carry enough of each blood type for it to be useful. But what if there was a way that they could?
My name's Alan Doctor. I'm a physician, scientist focused on oxygen transport in critical illness with particular focus on transfusion medicine.
So a lot of work to do with blood.
Right. Well, almost exclusively, yeah.
So his real name is Dr. Doctor. We're getting past it. Dr. Doctor is the creator of erythromer, an artificial blood substitute which is designed to be used in situations where blood transfusions aren't currently possible and in emergency situations like a blood shortage. It works a lot like instant coffee. It's a bag with powder on one side and water on the other. The powder is the dehydrated blood substitute. When you need to use it, you break the seal between the two sides, shake it around for 2 minutes, and then it's ready to be transfused. Where are we at with trials?
We're still in small animal trials. We have successfully tested it in mice, rats, and rabbits in models of life-threatening bleeding, and we hope to have our first in human trials in 2027.
Have you considered calling it True Blood?
You mean because of the show? Yes, it's been suggested more than once, yes. Although I have to confess, I have tasted it. It tastes a little different than actual blood.
So erythromer has a lot of benefits over natural blood. No cold chain requirements, you can stockpile it, and it's a universal donor. One of its potential uses is for soldiers on the battlefield who don't currently have access to blood transfusions. And one of their biggest sources of funding is the DoD.
The remit from the Department of Defense was it should work in the dark, in a ditch, under fire. So the idea is very, very easy to use.
So let's say this is commercially available in 10 years like Dr. Doctor says it might be. How would the business model of this compare to whole blood collected at nonprofits like the Red Cross?
So there is no market now for synthetic blood, but we expect it is in the 4 to 8 billion range in the US alone, and that is the civilian market.
Fully loaded cost of erythromer versus fully loaded cost of blood, do you anticipate erythromer will be cheaper?
Our objective is to make them similar, recognizing that it offers a shelf life difference. So if you think about managing inventory, you have to buy 10 units of natural red cells for every single unit of erythromer if you want to have something on the shelf for a year.
So maybe one day in the future we won't need as much blood and an artificial substitute can help. But for now, they need my blood. Final exposure therapy time right now. The one thing that always makes me the most nervous is when they use the alcohol pad on my arm. That's when it really starts to feel real. So I figured I should do that on my arm right now. And yep, and I would be fine if they stabbed me with a needle.
Not necessarily. Every 2 seconds, someone in the US needs blood. Here at the Red Cross, we collect about more than 6.3 million blood products every single year.
How many donation sites does the Red Cross have?
Hundreds. We host about 500 blood drives a day across the US. Only about 3% of the eligible population donates. 3. So that leaves 97% of the eligible population that we'd love to bring into the fold.
What is the worst case scenario if blood supplies are too low?
Patient surgeries may have to be delayed, or transfusions or blood products may not be on the shelves when the hospitals ask for them. We never want to be in that situation though.
How frequently are you making donations to the hospitals?
We could be delivering to hospitals every single day. We want to be as good a steward as possible of the blood supply, making sure that we're not over collecting, but we want to make sure that we collect enough so that we have those products on hand for hospitals to use.
What has to be done to the blood between when someone donates it and when it's ready to be used at the hospital?
Yeah, we want to make sure that we do extensive testing, making sure that it's as safe as possible for the patients.
How long does that testing process take?
It can take up to a couple of days. You just want to make sure we're cognizant of that 40-day shelf life.
So the Red Cross is a nonprofit, but when you give blood to hospitals, they pay you what is a reimbursement for costs incurred.
First and foremost, we do not charge for the blood that we collect. It's pure cost recovery. It's going right back into recruiting, processing, testing, training, and distributing to hospitals.
There are a lot of misconceptions around the blood industry that I had and I've been trying to dispel for this video. Does the Red Cross export any blood?
We keep ours to our national network. Certainly we stand ready to support any situation where that is called for, but we don't typically export blood. It stays within our national inventory.
A lot of people, myself included, before starting this video, hear about how much blood the US exports, and then they also hear about how we're sometimes in a blood shortage, and they wonder why on earth we'd still be exporting blood. So just to reiterate, it's because the blood we're exporting is plasma, and the blood we're sometimes in a shortage of is whole blood or platelets. So the reason that people think this is that export data doesn't get more specific than calling blood products, so it doesn't specify when we're talking about plasma. So that's why exporting blood, plasma, has nothing to do with blood, whole blood shortages. The interview was going really well, and I was getting excited for my donation, and then I found out something terrible. They do a finger prick for the hemoglobin, and I'm cool with that. And I love finger pricks. I was checking my stress level. It was just at 30. It shot up to 55, 60. Here I go, being the bravest one they've ever seen. Everybody's saying it. I have a work kickball league coming up. Is there any chance that I could, if you guys could store this, and I could have it back and do like blood doping?
No.
Stress level 27. That's so low. We're chilling.
All right, are we ready?
Oh my God. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna look this way,
That's
and I'm
fine.
gonna talk so much.
And you are donating officially.
Oh my God, I'm doing it. Meg, I'm doing it. Just like I always said I dreamed. Do I look like the bravest one they've ever seen?
So stoic right now.
Somebody join. Okay, hi, welcome to my live, everybody. Look at all my blood. It came out of me. Yeah, it turns out my anxiety is the worst part. You guys, everyone should go donate blood. It was not even bad.
How do you feel about it?
I still feel good. You know, I try to stay humble, but with everybody around here telling me how much a hero I am, when you do this much good, you know, it goes to your head, it does. So, the blood donation industry is very impressively large and well-functioning, and maybe soon an artificial blood will make it even better and more stable. The for-profit plasma industry is very necessary but very ethically questionable, and I overcame a genuinely debilitating fear. I'm so brave. Roll the tape. When they do this tomorrow, I'm gonna be so brave. Okay, I'll be brave. Being the bravest one they've ever seen. The girl's not even looking away. She's really brave. Everybody's saying I'm the best and the bravest. I'm being really brave. They're saying I'm the bravest person they've ever seen. I'm the bravest. I think there's gotta be a supercut of every time I say that I'm the bravest one they've ever seen.